Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Take the North podcast, a Chicago Bears podcast, along with Dan Wiederer of The Athletic and contributor to The Score. I am Mark Grote of Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. I am part of the Rahimi, Harris, and Grote show, fittingly enough here as we come at you on a Friday ahead of the Bears' 3 o'clock game at Soldier Field against the Dallas Cowboys. And let's get right to it, Dan, because this is a special edition. We'll have our listen to this. You are at Haugh. I am in our Score studios, and I'm just going to quickly go through the injury report, Dan, and then you're going to give some insights on what's going down at the Hall here today. But the following players for the game will not be playing. They are Karan Amagaji. They are TJ Edwards, Kyler Gordon out, Jalen Johnson out. Jalen Jones is not going to be able to play in this game either. DeMarco Jackson, the linebacker, questionable. DeAndre Swift is questionable. Meantime, the good news, Grady Jarrett and Jahdae Walker both were full participants in the practice out at Haugh on Friday, assuming or connoting that those two guys will be good to go. Hi, Dan. What's going on out at the Hall?
Hi, Mark. Yeah, good news there on the Grady Jarrett front. The fact that he was able to participate in full in today's practice and doesn't have an injury designation for Sunday. It's green light for Grady Jarrett, and good news for a defense that needs all the firepower they can get with those other guys that you listed that are out. DeAndre Swift also able to practice all week, so I would imagine that questionable tag is a questionable tag, but still is positioning him to be able to go on Sunday against the Cowboys, and we'll see what happens. We had about 12 minutes or so with Ben Johnson before practice on Friday morning. He was to start the press conference curt on a number of topics. He indicated that they've had a good week of practice, that they got back to work. Grote, he was also asked about why they went indoors on Thursday, and his answer was very quick to the point, and he said, because I wanted to.
Wow. No follow-up. That was it, huh? No,
that was that. I think it took everybody off guard a little bit, and so that's where we're at. And they were back outside today, and hopefully they can get themselves aligned for Sunday, because I think we would all benefit from the temperature going down a few degrees inside this building next week.
Yeah, man, there's been an edge, and I think on the overall, as unpleasant it can be at times, I think the edge was needed. I think what Ben Johnson said about practice habits was needed. I think the players reacting to it was needed. I think all of it sort of came together, and you're right. Like, the only thing that can cure this now, like, it's all for naught if the Bears come out and have another bad loss. At least give us some loss that how did you put it, Dan?
Just lose normally. Just lose normally.
Yeah, just lose normally. So that's the setup. Bears Cowboys, and if you want like more insight in our picks and all of that, just check out our previous episode to this one. This happens to be episode 382. If you want the full breakdown, go to episode 381, and I'll give you everything you need.
And if you're bored over the weekend, listen to the other 380 while you got some time.
If you would like. We do this occasionally on Fridays. It's a segment we like to call Listen to This, where we play audio that we thought was very interesting or insightful, and maybe something that you haven't heard yet throughout the week. So I will get us started this week. We got 3 pieces of audio. The first one I want to play, actually, some of you may have heard this, because we had quarterback guru Tim Jenkins on our show earlier this week, the Rahimi, Harris, and Grote show. He comes on each week to talk about the offense, moreover, Caleb Williams. And he told us something, and he told us it begrudgingly, because he knows that if he puts this out there, what you were about to hear from him, that people aren't necessarily going to like it, and then his comments fill up. But it has to do, just to simplify it on my part, it has to do with the Bears simplifying the offense for Caleb Williams. Here's Tim Jenkins.
The amount of times we got back to a scripted call, and again, we dressed it up differently, but it was the same concept, is very unusual.
Oh.
Like, that does not happen in the NFL in terms of, like, very rare. We saw, I think, the same play called 3, maybe 4 times with that dig in the shot post. Doing Denver, doing Miami, doing all these other teams. That is rare. Like, we do not see reloaded plays that often. Like, we were borderlining on where I would start to worry, and I'm coaching 3rd grade tackle right now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm starting to think the kids are recognizing it. So I do think he was adjusting to kind of meet Caleb there, of saying, hey, I know we've got all these shifts, we've got all these motions, we're running these out, all these different formations. Let me try to reload some of these concepts for you. So I think he did that. And I think Caleb probably took a step in the right direction. Ultimately, like, to me, the things that I walked away were he had a couple of misses where it was just like, man, we just can't miss this. This is a rhythm throw. Like, he's open. We got to take that. And then just the two decisions where, it more or less felt like he was being, like, this is like a quarterback room, but like, it was almost like, hey, we were being disrespectful with like our, reverence for the football. Like, we have to take care of the football. And the two INTs were kind of more or less just like lazy. And I think that's easy to clean up, once you have those discussions.
I want to follow up on that because you're right, Tim. People are going to take that, what you just said, and run with it. So I think I'm going to ask you the question that a lot of people are going to be asking when you say that they reloaded some of the concepts and how rare it is to twice do scripted plays. Why are they needing to do that for Caleb Williams? Does that mean that he is not getting the rest of what Ben Johnson is laying down?
And again, here we go.
That's why I want to nip this in the bud right now, Tim. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's fine. I just, like, if I'm being honest, I don't think there's another way to interpret it, right? Yeah. Like, if you're reloading a play that we repped a bunch because it's scripted, there's no other way to interpret it other than, hey, we're not putting in a full, 90 play game plan, right? We're going to put in 60. With that being said, is that like ultra concerning for me in week 2? No. Yeah. And it's just because of the context of Caleb Williams. Like, you've got to think about this from like zoom out, big picture. There is no shot his youth football coach was coaching him. Caleb was just probably the best kid out there, running and throwing. Then in high school, he was, I'm just going to ride this dude to a state, right? Like, you guys know what it's like coming up in football for these generational guys. Like, and then, like, again, I'm not trying to take a shot at Lincoln, but like, it's not the most complex thing in the world pre-snap, right? Because they're going fast. They're prioritizing going fast over winning with a shift in emotion. Then you get to the NFL, and your rookie year was really a wash. Just like you potentially played for an offensive coordinator that I don't know if this ever been confirmed, but doesn't script. Like, that's insane. We got to throw that out. So it's like the first time you've been asked to do this. And that's a lot. Like, it's a lot just to spit out the verbiage and then to handle everything and then have your eyes in the right spot on a PSL 2-shell, 3-shell. Like, I know it's not popular because he gets paid so much money and he got taken number 1 overall to say, hey, we got to have patience, but like, it is what it is. So that's why I'm not concerned yet. If we're in week 8 reloading, I'd start to say, like, dang, that's concerning because we're not picking it up, right, at all. I'm just not concerned with it week 2. And I think, to me, it's like the coach has obviously decided, hey, this guy is, let's just make sure his eyes are in the right spot. And like, listen, I tell you, we ran that play a bunch. The safety started to jump the dig route and he fit it in there, right? And that's the piece of this that we're talking about of why you took him number 1 overall.
So Tim Jenkins right there here on the Take the North podcast, Mark Grote and Dan Wiederer. So Dan, they are simplifying, but Tim trying to plead with us that that's okay. There needs to be context. His season is just beginning.
There's one other nugget of context from Sunday that's important to point out, and it's that the Bears got down so much in the second half that I think sometimes as a coaching staff, you lean on plays that you've already run a little bit more there because you just don't want to let everything out when you're down by 30.
Good point.
That said, I do think that there is a volume issue here that we have to be in tune to as we go forward. And when Ben Johnson has talked in recent weeks about getting to know the player, what he's talking about is getting to know with Caleb Williams how much he can put on his plate and how much he can absorb. I think he's used the phrase download before, and how much you can get him to absorb the information, apply it, and be comfortable and confident on game day using it. And so I think it's just something to keep an eye on as we go forward. How quickly can this offense expand? How quickly can that plate get a little bit more on it so that this offense can be a little bit more diverse? It can be a little bit more expansive the way Ben wants it. And as you and I talked about earlier this week, there's that whole concept of opponent-specific designer plays that Ben wants to get to in regards to, hey, here's some things that we've identified that we can really use to attack the Cowboys. Let's put these in this week. If the quarterback can't handle it, you can put fewer of those in. And so now you've got to kind of find that balancing act as a head coach, as a play caller. And Ben Johnson is in the middle of that. I think one of the reasons that the Bears fell in love with him in the hiring process is because they think he's got the emotional intelligence to be able to navigate that skillfully. And we'll just see as we go forward kind of how that tug of war goes and how that back and forth goes.
Yeah, and that's just it. Eventually you have to get there because of what he represents, because of where he was drafted, because of what we all have seen from him in his college days. And we know the arm talent is there, and I think we've both talked about it this week. Better for Caleb Williams. It doesn't mean it's good or where it's supposed to be. Good at times, and I'm not using bad to describe Caleb Williams, but there is a bar that should be set for Caleb Williams that, quite frankly, Dan, is great. Like, that's where the bar should still be set for Caleb Williams.
That bar can't come down. And the other thing that you and I need to keep an eye on, and everybody that's in our audience here, is just the slope of the growth curve, right? It can't be a flat slope on this, on Caleb's growth. Like, it's got to start to spike upwards to where you're like, okay, this is significant progress now. It's not just, oh, his weeks 1 and 2 were better than weeks 1 and 2 of his rookie year. Cool. Great. That's an assumption for every quarterback who comes into the league, right? And that stuff's floating around this year. Well, he's better than he was a year ago at this time. I would sure as hell hope so, right? And so we'll see where it goes from here. And it's just something to keep an eye on. It's really good insight from Tim, and I'm glad you pulled it, and it's married up with some of the other things we've talked about, and onward we march to see how it goes, right?
Listen to this is what we're doing. Dan, what would you like us to listen to?
All right. We're going to talk a little bit here now about the offensive tackles. Couple things here to take note of. Ben Johnson was asked for an overview on Friday of Braxton Jones through 2 games, and it was kind of how all his reviews of Braxton Jones have been to this point. It's a acknowledgement that it's fine at times and not so great at other times. And Braxton, the coaching staff has identified, has been better in the first half of these first 2 games and not so great in the second half. And there is an element of fatigue that has crept in for him a little bit, that they're trying to get their arms around, both with practice workload and with kind of just how they set him up for success within a game. On the other side of the line, Darnell Wright. I'm prefacing this bite we're about to hear by telling you that Ben Johnson was very forward with some praise of Darnell Wright today on Friday of week 3 at Haugh, saying that he's a bit of a unicorn and they love the talent he's got. And you know, he's a little bit of a unicorn with the way he can move at his size, and they're trying to utilize that and do all those things. That said, it's been very clear to us over the last 7 or 8 weeks that they expect more out of another guy that was a top 10 draft pick, right? Like, when you take guys in the top 10, you don't just expect them to be, it's okay. It's no, these guys are going to be cornerstone impact starters for us for a long time, and they've got to be big time difference makers. And so that leads in to this exchange with Dan Roushar from Thursday at Haugh about the overall play of Darnell Wright and where it's headed from here.
To become the line that you want to become. Darnell's going to have to become the Darnell that I thought he was. What are you seeing out of him?
Well, I think in the first 2 games, we've seen some really good stuff. But the bad has been bad. It's been, as he knows, whether it's a penalty, pre-snap, and or something that happens in a physical element, those things have to be rectified.
Yeah.
And we're working on that, addressing it with him. I still know that watching his tape, when you see it and it's good, you really like it. And when it's bad, we've got to get away from that. It can't be catastrophic.
What's the stuff on the tape that you love when it's going really well?
Well, what we've seen is, particularly in the run game, him really running off the ball, getting landmarks, whether he's at the point of attack or the backside. We really like that. He's had some really good physical double teams where we're getting movement vertically, which we're looking for from him. In his pass sets, when he's been right, when he slides fundamentally in a good spot, he's centered with his body, and he's throwing his hands, the reps have been really good.
Yeah.
When he's not doing that, we're not getting the quality play that we want.
It sounded like a couple months ago you were still trying to figure out how to press his buttons in particular. What have you learned about keeping him locked where he needs to be locked?
I think the guys in the room have done a really good job continuing to expect the accountability, details, those things. He's been exceptional in the meeting room. He's paying attention. He's correcting all the things you want to see from him. I think in practice, as things go, like you do, early you see, for him, you see good stuff. And then there's times in the game or in practice that you see this guy start to drift. Yeah. And we have to reset that button. One of the things he does weekly is in his preparation, he comes up with a plan of how he wants to execute on game day. And then as a coach, you reference that, you're aware of it, and then you go back to him, hey, reset, here we go.
Wow, man, that's some heavy stuff. I mean, I'm sitting here jotting the stuff down as this is going on, and I think, in conclusion, I kind of like the idea of our podcast being called "Can't Be Catastrophic." I like that as well. But that is some wild stuff right there. That the bad has been, when it's bad, it's bad. Mention the penalties and the physical element, while building him back up as well. That I feel like Dan looks at him and says, that this is to mold this clay. Like, that's some good clay right there. That is a guy who is worthy of being a first round pick, but to get him to the point where, as you said, Dan, he is a cornerstone. You can't, you're not a backup. You're not a swing tackle. You are a damn right tackle that's supposed to be here for a long time. So there can't be moments where it's bad. And that's evidently what Roushar is saying.
The verb drift was used there, right? Like sometimes someone else starts to drift in practice and within games, and they've got to get that out of them. Look, like you are coming into year 3 now as an offensive tackle, which means that the Bears are going to have to make contractual decisions before long. And the contractual decisions at that position create a pretty hefty investment for guys that you want to keep around past contract number 1. And so Darnell Wright has a challenge in front of him. I like hearing from Dan Roushar that he's been attentive in meetings, that he's capable of correction, that this does seem to be a give and take of a coach-player relationship right now, where it's not like, oh man, the player's pissed off at the coaches and the coaches are frustrated with the player. It's just like, we're identifying things that are weaknesses here, and we've got to strengthen those weaknesses. And so we'll see where it heads. And obviously there's some things to like there with what Ben and Dan have said, but now it's got to be all the time, right? Yeah. And like you said, it can't be catastrophic, and the bad can't be bad.
Yeah, and the penalties got to stop. I mean, that's just it. I don't want to see 58 being called for another false start or holding or whatever the case may be this Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. Listen to This continues, our finale cut for the day on Listen to This. Mr. Wiederer, what have ye for us?
This is great for me. This is a little bit of therapy for me here, Grote, because you know how it works for me on Wednesday mornings. I have a 7:25 set hit with Mully and Haugh on 670 The Score. I'm typically in the middle of morning chaos at my house, trying to get the kids out of bed, ready for school, and then I'll pop on the Zoom, and the minute I say something, it's clipped by The Score and it's relayed to social media. And I'm not, I'm halfway down the block walking my daughter to school sometimes, and my mentions are blowing up in ways where you're like, whoa, what happened? And what did they pull today? So I made some comments the other day that were quickly pulled about Caleb Williams eventually becoming the player that the Bears drafted number 1 overall, being the engine of where they want to go, and not just the guy who's he's getting better. It's nice to see he's getting better. He's the number 1 overall pick of the 2024 draft. For those who want a little entertaining dip in the sewer, go to the mentions under the tweet that The Score put out on Wednesday morning with that video clip.
You getting crushed, I take it? QBPP
was out. They were coming out with full fangs. And so then I'm listening to our next guest, who I'm not going to name until you hear his voice, talk about the quarterback on The Score. He was on with Spiegel and Holmes on Thursday. He had this to say with his own overview of Caleb Williams.
What I want to see, guys, this is start 20 for Caleb Williams. It's time for him to take ownership. It's time for us to see us winning games because of Caleb Williams. It's time for us to see, hey, if we give up, let's not say 52 points, but we give up 30 points, let's score 34 points and win the game because of Caleb Williams. It's start 20. He's the first pick in the draft. It's time for him to take ownership and us to be talking about not his improvement, but about wins because of Caleb Williams. And I think this defense is potentially this weekend, we could see that.
the all-time leader in games played for the Bears, I don't think was called the same names that I was called for expressing almost an identical sentiment to what I said. Thank you, Pat Mannelly. Thank you.
Well, maybe he will be now. Maybe
Sorry, Pat Mannelly. Sorry.
I loved it. Yeah, he's got to take ownership and win because of. Every single person listening to this podcast right now has been wanting the Bears to have a quarterback that you win because of. And it just hasn't happened in this franchise's history, basically.
I want to be very clear because this discussion gets really, really supercharged really quickly. You've heard me for a while now on this very podcast talk about this 2025 timeline for me. It's arbitrary. It's the 4 weeks before the bye, the reset at the bye, and then the 3 games to finish October to get a really comprehensive progress report on where Caleb Williams is at. That means he's got 5 more games to play and a bye week in the middle there to show some of the growth that we're asking for. So no, I'm not asking for Caleb Williams to reach absolute all-pro status on Sunday at Soldier Field against the Cowboys. I've never asked for that. The patience that's needed has been vocalized on this podcast 150 times. The idea that this growth curve is not going to be linear has been vocalized on this podcast 250 times. We know, as Ben Johnson told us this week, it's not going to be stair steps up. Like eventually there's going to be a step that goes down and then you got to climb back up again. All of that said, we know what this league is about. It's a quarterback-driven league where your quarterback has to be the guy that kind of takes over the team and becomes the defining force of who you are. And that's going to happen at some point within this season, right? Like you and I both agree on that. As patient as everyone's going to be, there still has to be evidence that you are an absolute potential star in this league. And that usually starts with being a reason you win football games. Sunday, a very winnable game against a defense that's a little bit down and shaken right now. Go show people who you are, right? Like go take this test and go pass this test with flying colors.
Amen, man. I mean, I think like from us collectively, we are trying to keep the standard high because you Bears fans have seen it too many times where it's the Bears formula is have a quarterback who's good enough, have a great running game, and have a great defense. And as fun as that has been, and sometimes work through the years, most of the time through the years, that formula ultimately doesn't work. So you want it differently. So I suggest that everybody out there and take the Northland, take this in your life too. Keep your standards high for the quarterback, for everything that you are doing this weekend, maybe even at a Bears game. Keep your standards high. Dan, this has been a blast. I think episode 382 has been excellent.
That is life advice from Mark Grote.
That is right.
North.
See what we do for our audience, an audience which I absolutely love. We do got to get out of here.
Keep your chins up and your standards high.
That's right. That's what we're trying to tell people. We want everybody to be at their best. That includes Caleb Williams, and that includes you right now listening to the Take the North podcast. For Dan Wiederer of The Athletic and The Score, for our producer extraordinaire, the married Adam Studzinski, I am Mark Grote of Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score, saying thank you for listening to and watching the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.